All right, guys, so we are taking a look at the Moto G Stylus 5G 2022. And I was looking forward to this phone coming out because I had the Moto G Stylus non-5G version for 2022, and I did a review on it. And I was kind of bummed out with that phone. I thought that Motorola really dropped the ball in a lot of areas. And I saw in the news that this one was coming out. Wow, is it filthy? I just wiped it and it already has fingerprints. I heard that this one was coming out, and I was like, oh, might want to wait for this phone because it seems like it's going to come out with just better specs overall in a Snapdragon processor. And I was excited to try it out, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about it because I think it is a very, very interesting phone, and I think it's actually a really good phone. Now, as far as the build quality, you are still getting a plastic back. The back does feel cheap, but again, me personally, I don't care about a plastic back, but you might, so it is plastic. Now, the nice thing with the Moto G Stylus 2022 5G version is these flatter sides. So the phone almost looks identical to the non-5G version, except for the sides. When I was holding them next to each other, the sides are flatter, kind of going for that more squared off look that I think most phones are going for nowadays. And I think Motorola wants to jump on that trend. But also, this feels like aluminum. So you're getting an aluminum band around the side, which does make it feel more premium. Adds a good weight to it. But the back being plastic means it is not too heavy. And let me see if I can actually wipe this down slightly. Sorry, I'm trying to wipe it off, but it is like really hard to get the fingerprints off this thing and keep it clean for more than 2 seconds. But no, the build quality is not terrible, but it's not great either. It's a very plasticky feeling phone. That's just something that I feel like you'd have to get used to with it. I personally don't care. I think it feels nice, and it doesn't feel too heavy for how big the phone is. So let's talk about some of these specs, some of the main specs you're going to be getting here. A 6.8-inch display at a 1080p resolution. And I think this is like practically the exact same display that you got on the non-5G version of the Moto G Stylus 2022. I notice almost no difference. Maybe it's slightly brighter outdoors. But other than that, like colors wise and viewing angles wise, I think it is basically exactly the same. The only difference being that it is now 120 hertz instead of 90 hertz on the non-5G version. So that's nice to see. And, I do think that it feels, a little smoother. 90 to 120, some people will be able to notice, some people won't. I don't think it makes that much of a difference, but it is a little bit smoother, and it is nice to have the higher refresh rate here. Now, this phone also comes with the Snapdragon 695, and obviously, again, as the name suggests, this is now a 5G phone instead of just 4G, so that's nice. And Snapdragon 695, I would say, is the biggest addition here with 8 gigabytes of RAM. And not only that, but if I'm correct, I wonder if I can pull this up. So as you can see, it has 8 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabytes of storage. The 8 gigabytes of RAM was a surprise. I didn't expect Motorola to put that much RAM in the phone. I thought they'd maybe go with 6 again, but hey, 8's awesome. And with the RAM boost feature on this phone, I wonder if I can find where that even is. Here, with the RAM boost on, 10 gigabytes. So cool. And it had that on from the get-go, so I didn't turn it off. I just left it on. That's pretty cool. 8 to 10 gigabytes of RAM on this here device. That's pretty fantastic. I'm glad Motorola did that because this phone really does feel so much snappier than the Moto G Stylus 2022. Now, the Moto G Stylus 2022, with its MediaTek processor, lower-end processor, was not holding up very well in day-to-day tasks, flipping around the UI, opening and closing apps. I noticed that it was a lot slower, and that really, really bothered me. I was really bummed out that, not that Motorola had put a MediaTek processor, but they had put such a low-end, older one. It wasn't holding up to just day-to-day use which was really unfortunate, where this one is just super smooth and very pixel-like, very, closer to stock Android with Motorola here. And so if you like a more pixelish, UI and software experience, then I think Motorola is definitely the direction you want to head in, versus something like Samsung. If we look at you'll see here it is Android 12. So it is nice that this phone is coming out with Android 12. And I mentioned that this phone has 256 gigabytes of storage, but it also has, I didn't realize this, in the SD card slot. There's a SD card pre-installed in the phone, or at least on mine there was, and it was 256 gigabytes SanDisk SD card. So I was shocked by that. So that's a good amount of storage. If we go to this device, it says 256 gigabytes. And then if we go to the SanDisk, 256 gigabytes. So that's pretty cool. I don't know. I bought mine from Best Buy, so I don't know if all of them come with that. If you get it from Motorola or somewhere else, from phone we'll see what companies get it. Cricket, Verizon. I don't know if all of them come with the SD card, but that's pretty cool. And I had no idea that it came with it. So you're looking at 512 gigabytes of total storage on the phone, 8 to 10 gigabytes of RAM. The Snapdragon 695 is much, much better, much more usable, in my opinion, just on a day-to-day basis. It just feels really smooth. It feels like a nice phone. I don't feel like I'm using a budget phone or using a phone that's like lesser than a flagship. With the old Moto G Stylus 4G 2022, I constantly felt like I was using a budget phone. Everything took a long time to load, apps forced close, things would stutter and freeze. It screamed budget phone, and it shouldn't have at the price it was coming at. This phone is $499, which I think is too much money for it. I think it's a better price for this phone would be $399, which is actually what I bought it for because I had a Best Buy gift card. But I think $399 is an awesome price for this. $499 is asking a bit much, and I'm going to explain why as the review continues. So that's really one of my main sticking points with this phone is the price. If this came down, which it obviously will come down, you'll be able to find it for better prices. Once it does, I think it'll be a much better deal. But as it stands right now, it is $499. Now, if we're looking at the battery life, you're getting a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, which is definitely good enough. And I think this battery is excellent. So if I go in here to some screenshots, you'll be able to see 7 hours and 43 minutes with how much battery left? 25% battery left. So that's excellent. So you're looking at 8+ hours of screen on time here with this phone, no problem. And as you can see, the breakdown of what I was using on the phone, lots of YouTube. Very, very good for playing videos. This battery lasts a really long time. I was super impressed. So 7 hours and 43 minutes, and it just was, it was still going. I think you'd be able to get 8 to 9 hours. So I'm going to say 8+, just to be fair. And I did keep the phone's refresh rate on at all times. I never turned it off because I never felt there was a need to turn it off, honestly. Right now for the review, I'm just going to keep it at auto, but if you want to bump it up to 120, this phone's battery is fantastic. You should have no problems being able to put it into 120 hertz. Or you could leave it in the auto mode. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but I kind of like the 120 hertz. Just kind of always being on. The phone feels super snappy. The Snapdragon 695 is no slouch. It's actually a really good processor and is much better than the non-5G version of this phone with its MediaTek processor. Leaps and bounds better. It's almost unfortunate because I feel bad for anyone who bought the 4G version of this with the MediaTek processor because it is so much worse. Now, the claim to fame, obviously, with the Stylus, Moto G Stylus 5G is the Stylus, which is very nice. It's nice to have. I'm glad that Motorola continues to make phones with styluses. Styli? Is it styli? Is that singular? But I really like the Stylus. It is really handy. And I actually made this wallpaper that you see here. And this one, I made it using this phone with this stylus in the GoDaddy Studio app. And unlike the 4G version of the Moto G Stylus that I used in my last review, or a couple of reviews ago, I had no issues photo editing and using the GoDaddy Studio app to make these wallpapers. None. I had multiple layers opened, no issues whatsoever. And I'll actually try to show you guys if I can find it. Here it is. So I'll go in and I'll show you some of my projects here. So here it is. And this is what I use to edit it. I love this app. I can't recommend this app enough. It is super fun if you want to make your own wallpapers. But as you can see, you know, I had a good amount of layers opened, all edited, you know, erasing things, you know, really nice. So this this image right here that you're seeing right here, this one, I actually cut this out. So I actually zoomed in. So what I do here in the app is if you go over to mask, you can go in and you can just, I actually cut this out. This was in a regular picture, and I went in and I just very slowly, you can zoom in really far. And as you can see, you can, like, you know, cut out more of it. But I went in and I cut the entire thing out just the way I wanted it to be. So very, very nice to have the stylus. I love editing photos and doing stuff like this. And also for my job, as I mentioned before, as a contractor, I need to get signatures from people. And this is perfect. This is all I really need. Obviously, it's not as good as an S Pen on Samsung, but this is all you really need. And it's really, really good for basic tasks like getting signatures, doing some photo editing, maybe writing down a note. Nothing too crazy. And I think, you know, you can go in and color, of course, and have some fun. But, you know, obviously, I'm not going to do coloring, but if someone would like to, you know, you can. Wow, with my horrible, horrible handwriting. That's supposed to say, hey. Hey. Okay, now it just looks worse. What's up? Wow, my handwriting is absolutely terrible. But no, it's, you know, it's cool to have. I think it's fun. And with the Snapdragon 695, this thing holds up really well. I am so glad, like I said, that Motorola keeps making phones with a stylus, because not many other people are. I mean, honestly, you're going to have to get a Samsung if you want something else with a stylus that's going to cost a lot more money. Now, just for a little size comparison, here is the Samsung A53. So it is a good amount smaller, and I am going to do a head-to-head review with these two. I want to get some more testing in with the A53, and then I will show here. I'll really quickly. I'll show you guys, you know, the AMOLED screen next to an LCD screen. You know, LCD is not my favorite, but it's not horrible. It's not really that bad of a screen. You know, as you can see color-wise, I mean, they both look really nice. Obviously, the Samsung having the AMOLED screen. But, you know, they're both pretty snappy, but there's aspects of the Moto G Stylus actually I like more than the A53 so far. But now, moving along, we talked about the battery is actually very, very good. And I'm happy that it's a good battery because, you know, being a mid-range budget phone, it should have really good battery life. Now, let's take a look at the speaker quality. So if we go into, let's see if I can do this behind the camera. Go to Joby Tech.
The refresh rate at the highest that it can be set to.
So,
you know, it's an AMOLED screen. It's beautiful.
So let's go over my first con of the phone. There is only a bottom firing speaker on this phone. There is not one on the front, which I don't understand why Motorola keeps doing this. It kind of, for me, ends up slightly ruining the phone. It's a real bummer. I want a speaker on the front. It's not a bad speaker, but it's not as good as it could have been had they made it a front firing speaker and a bottom firing speaker like most other phones give you. Let me just go over to a part here that has some music so that we can. So it's fine. It's, they're not the best speakers in the world, but I don't think they're horrible either. Again, I wish they put one on the front also, like most other phones give you, like the Samsung A53 gives you. But hey, Motorola decided to cut corners there, and I think it's not an area they should have cut corners. Let's take a look at the cameras on this phone. So basically, Motorola is giving you the same camera array slightly as the non 5G version of this phone. It is not that different, but it is different in one key way. So it has the 50 megapixel camera, same, 50 megapixels as the non 5G version, but this one has optical image stabilization, which is very nice to see. And then the ultra wide's 8 megapixels. I think it's the exact same one with the macro feature built in because it does have autofocus. And then a 2 megapixel depth sensor, which is, it's kind of whatever. Now, the biggest problem with this phone, the number one con, the number one issue is, very sadly, this phone. Well, let me show you guys. You can only record in 1080p 30 or 1080p 60 frames per second. That is it. No 4K video recording. And I'm guessing maybe it's a limitation with the Snapdragon 695. I just don't understand why you would choose this chip then. You're charging $500 for this phone. If the limitation is the 695, it can't do 4K video recording, then why would you put it in here? Choose a different chip. I just don't understand. I think that's extremely unfortunate that this phone can't shoot 4K. And I think it's going to deter a lot of people. Now, the other issue is I would not put it, as you can see here, 30 frames per second. Do not use the 1080p 30 frames per second because it stutters and jitters and looks absolutely horrible. It freezes. It's really, really bad. And I was like, oh my God, this phone is unusable. I wanted to return it immediately until I switched over to 60 frames per second. And then with the stabilization and the 60 frames per second, it was smooth, perfectly fine, perfectly acceptable 1080p video. Again, not as good as 4K, but at least at the 60 frames per second, the video was stable, normal, not jittery, not freezing. It's really weird. I think it's actually kind of a bug with the phone, unfortunately. So I'm going to say if you're going to shoot video, shoot in the 60 frames per second. Don't use the 30 frames per second. Now, as far as the cameras are concerned, obviously you have the 1X 50 megapixel. Obviously, it'll pixel bin down unless you go into the more settings and you put it in the 50 megapixel ultra res, which I love using because I think it takes really nice pictures. As you can see, the shutter lag is not bad at all. And then you also have the ultra wide, which has autofocus, which is nice. And then you have the macro camera, which here is how I'm going to describe this phone. This is what you need to do with these cameras if you want to use the macro feature. So at 1X, that's pretty self-explanatory. But with the autofocus on the camera, on the ultra wide, you can use the ultra wide camera to do macro shots. You don't need to go into the macro mode, which basically I feel like it's just zooming in on the ultra wide. So you're getting slightly worse pictures, in my opinion. It's the same thing with the Moto Edge, I've noticed. If you just go to the ultra wide, it has autofocus. So if you pull something up real close, it can focus on it. You don't need to use the macro. Now, if you're going to use the macro, my suggestion is get extremely close to whatever you're trying to take a picture of. Like, get as close as you possibly can. That would be my recommendation to get the best possible shot out of it. And this is obviously not a good shot because this is like extreme low light, which the macro camera cannot handle. But if you just use the ultra wide, you're getting, the 8 megapixel shot. But honestly, I just feel like it's a better shot. And that is honestly in low light a better shot than the zoomed in macro version. So I will show you guys samples, but that is what I have been doing. I've been using the ultra wide more because I think it takes really good macro pictures, great macro pictures actually. I think this takes better macro pictures than the Samsung A53 by far. It's not even close. I also think this takes better 50 megapixel ultra res pictures than the Samsung A53 in its 64 megapixel mode. This has more detail. It just, the shots look better close up. I don't know what else to say, but if you go in here and you choose the ultra res 50 megapixel mode, ooh, I think the phone is freezing. Oh, well, that's good. That's good that I got that on video. It's never happened to me before. Okay, well, guys, there you go. The camera just froze, so take that for what it is. You know, the phone is not perfect. It is still a budget mid-tier phone. But if you go to the ultra res and you take a picture, I have no idea if that's a focus because I'm behind the camera. This thing has a lot of detail. It's really, really good. And in sunlight, not in like this horrible like cave that I'm in. If you're in sunlight, it takes excellent photos. And I'm going to show you guys some of the pictures I was able to get with this phone. So first and foremost, check out this one I got today with the 50 megapixel mode. I mean, there is just so much detail. Look at the little fuzz on this flower. Like, good job, Motorola. This is taking better pictures than the S22 Ultra. I mean, sorry, S22 Plus that I have. This takes better pictures than the S22 Ultra also. If you use the 108 megapixel mode on the S22 Ultra, you're not going to get as detailed close-up shots like this. You're just not. It'll be super blurry. It struggles to focus on close-up objects. This is a very, very good 50 megapixel mode. And I just keep using the 50 megapixel mode over and over again because it takes great shots. Look at the detail in here. Like, it's a really good 50 megapixel mode. I'm actually extremely impressed. And, you know, you can use, you know, the macro and it's perfectly fine. I'm more impressed by the 50 megapixel mode because I think it takes excellent shots. Like, there is just a ton of detail. Good job, Motorola. So, you know, instead of me just running through all of these images, let me show you guys the shots on the screen and you can take a look for yourselves. Here's the samples. This is a video test of the Moto G Stylus 5G 2022. All right, guys, so as you can see, this thing takes really good pictures. I'd say the cons on it are the lack of 4K video recording, only 1080p. I think that is a bummer, and I don't think the quality is amazing. It's okay, though. It'll get you by. I think that it not having a front-firing speaker is a major bummer on Motorola's part, and I think that people are going to be bothered by that. It only has a bottom-firing speaker. I think that it does have a headphone jack, by the way. I forgot to mention that. USB Type-C and a headphone jack. Thank you, Motorola. That is nice to see that you were hanging on to that. Oh, I didn't talk about the fingerprint scanner. It's excellent. It's really, really good. It's built into the side, and I think it is fantastic. It works every single time. I'll show you guys right It's really, really fast and really, really good. Very, very few times that I have any issues with it not opening. As long as you touch it the right way and get your entire thumb over it, it's very, very fast. I'm very pleased with it. The cameras, like I said, were very good. Low light is not amazing with this. Again, mid-tier budget phone. You can only expect so much. It's okay. It has a night vision mode, but it's not the best. I think close-up shots, macro shots, 50 megapixel ultra resolution is awesome. Really, really good. I think this is a very good camera. And with the optical image stabilization, you don't get many blurry shots. You get a lot of clear photos, even if you have animals, as you can see with the pictures of my pets. It takes a very decent shot. Now, is it amazing? Is it, as good of a daily shooter as a Samsung S22 Ultra or S22 Plus or a Google Pixel? No, it's not. But if you have the right frame of mind for this is a budget mid-range phone. And I think for being that, I think the cameras are very, very good. My biggest cons again, guys, no front-firing speaker, no 4K video recording. Those are the two things that absolutely kill me with this phone. If you can live without those, then I think you'll really like this phone because I've been using it as my daily driver. And honestly, I don't feel like I'm using a budget phone. It feels really, really good. I'm very happy with it. I've had really no major issues. I mean, you saw the camera freeze on camera. Camera freeze on camera? You saw the camera freeze while I was recording. And that's the first time that I had any issues with the camera. That was the first time I had a problem. And it was right here as I'm recording this video. So, take it for what it is. It's not perfect, but as far as using it day to day, let me tell you guys, with 120 hertz, it's really, really smooth. I like this phone. I think a lot of people are going to be bothered by the price. I wish it was $100 cheaper, but if you wait a little bit, you probably can get it for $100 cheaper. I'm sure the price on this is going to change. I'm sure there's going to be deals on this all over the place. So if you want to hold off from the $499, I get it. $399 makes a heck of a lot more sense to me. Or even $350. This would be a steal at $350. But I'm very happy with it, guys. I think that I think Motorola did a very good job. And I would definitely recommend this phone if you need a stylus and you want a decent macro camera and 50 megapixel ultra resolution. I mean, it's really, really good. And it has optical image stabilization. So good job, Motorola. I think those two areas need to be worked on. Front-firing speaker and 4K video recording on the next one, please. I'm begging you. Don't eliminate those things from your budget phones and your mid-range phones. All right, guys, if you guys have any questions, let me know below. I am going to be doing a side-to-side, versus comparison with the Samsung Galaxy A53 because I think these do compete against each other. That video will be coming out soon. If you have any other questions, let me know. And as always, please subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.